Okay.
Talk show. Recorded live.
Welcome, everybody, and to the Genesis Science Fiction Radio Show, a service of the BlackScienceFictionSociety.com website. Tonight is the October 25th, 2013 edition. I'm your host, William Hayashi, and our special guest tonight is Robert Mathis. He's the owner of Inner Eye Media, who originally, I guess, started in New York and now lives in Atlanta, Georgia. And I kind of envy you because the weather down there is a lot better than New York and Chicago. Welcome to the show, Robert. How are you tonight?
Thank you so much. I'm doing just fine. Thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure. Earlier we were talking a little bit, and you said you just got back in town today?
Yes, from the Show Me convention. It's held down in the North Beach side of Miami. It's a convention of mostly theater managers and cinema people.
And is this something that you do often?
Yes, well, that's my other job when I'm not doing the multimedia. I work in film promotions. And
Okay.
Briefly, I promote films through stuff as promotional features, visual stuff as like banners, the movie posters you see in the theaters, standing stuff that's geared toward promotional venues of major films. I service the 7 major studios.
That's pretty cool, and I have an appreciation for that particular art. I just had a book released this week, and the person who did the art for the illustration for the cover of my book was the person who does the artwork for the TV show The Walking Dead. And so anybody who thinks that, TV or movie art is in any way a secondary enterprise, it simply is not.
No, not by any means.
So tell us a little bit about, your early years, the startup of Inner Eye Media, and I guess you were in New York at that time?
Well, actually, it's a company that I've had located from New York through here, Atlanta, Georgia, as well as Los Angeles, California. My background, briefly, I've come from a long multimedia background as far as video production and film editing. I've done a lot of the behind-scene tours. I've toured with groups such as Snoop Dogg, members of the Wu-Tang Clan, Outkast, Ludacris. So I've been around like in the background. I'm the background guy that you know, but you don't know.
you know, people will know of your work, but not necessarily know that you were the creator. Is that like it?
Yes.
And so how did you get started? I mean, you don't just fall into those kind of people. Where did you get your start? How did you kind of work your way into working with such notables?
Well, it all started from a passion that I had back when I was young. I was always into the artistic culture from a very young age. Originally, I'm from Harlem, where back in my days, the old days, I'm 45 now. So back in my days, the artistic culture was very heavy in Harlem. I moved to Queens, New York in 1974, and I attended a school, PS 50, shout out to Liverpool Street, 101st Avenue. There, we didn't have a lot, but we had a strong art program. And through the arts, they encouraged us a lot. So I was always there with arts from, it went from crayons to street graph, and reading the comic books, graphic novels, guys, that had a strong influence on me. And it just boomed from there, just having a yearning for it.
Uh-huh.
And that yearning just turned into a passion, and from the passion, you just go out and you just grind it out.
And so, yeah, how did you start out with, on your mission to meet with these kind of people and end up working with them?
Okay. My very first venture, okay, I'll tell people, you have to start humble, trust me. My first venture, I had a thought. I said, well, no one knows me. I don't know me. So my main plan was, well, someone has to know you. Once someone knows you, someone sees your work. If your work is good, then people will know you, and from then things should blossom. That was my thought. That was my plan.
Okay.
So I went through back then. This was before they had Craigslist and all that. This was when they had the local paper here in Atlanta, loafing. It was called Creative Loafing. They may still have it around. They have it in various states, but it's a local magazine that's printed here weekly, or was printed here weekly on Wednesdays, and they would have a classified section of local wants and needs, and I would research the ads, and I would see I wanted this type of cameraman, this type of work, but no one had budget. They would have shoestring budgets, $15, free lunch, free dinner, gas money, stuff like that. So I say, well, hey, that's a position that I've got to be qualified for. So my very first venture in multimedia professionally was shooting wedding videos. And
okay.
And I think I was paid maybe like $25 a video.
Really? That low?
That low. But hey, I had a gig.
Yeah. Let me just ask you this: Are you on speakerphone right now? Are we on speakerphone?
Yes. It's plugged into the. You would rather me take it out?
Yeah, if you would, because I want people to be able to hear and understand you as well as possible.
Okay, let me try. You do. How?
Yeah.
That's better.
Oh, much better, man.
Oh,
and I know
okay,
it's a pain in the ass to hold the phone up to your ear for 2 hours. Believe me.
Okay.
No,
Okay.
that sounds a lot better. So that's pretty cool because what you did was you had a plan, you knew what it took, and essentially you went out and it sounds almost fearlessly like you went out and sold yourself in the most effective possible way to get your name out there. And so how did that work over time for you?
Well, once again, it took a while. Like it took a process of maybe about 1 to 2 years, really. And,
okay.
And just like you said, through working and going through personal experiences, they were all learning experiences, such as like there were a lot of guys that started out the same time. They went to film school, they went to these prestigious schools and everything, but they were learning slowly, book by book. And I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with that. If that's your learning process, that's your learning process. But me, for the same price, I figured I can get a hands-on, real-life learning experience. And through going through those trials and errors, those ups and downs, that kind of gave me an edge on it, and it reflected in my artwork. And therefore, when I solicited my work to these more established groups, then I was able to stand amongst the rest of the guys that they were used to working with and
sure.
have them seriously look at my stuff and seriously consider using me.
So like at that time, was your style, do you think your style was maybe a little edgier so that you were kind of maybe pushing the envelope to try to establish yourself, or how did you kind of work the approach?
Well, yeah, I'll agree with you. Do you still hear me fine?
Yeah, you sound great, man.
Okay. Yeah, well, it's exactly what you said, man. It's me pushing it. Like, I remember some of the first stuff I started with, like, when I look back now, it's, like, real shaky. But then again, some of them are really good. Like, there's a piece in particular, it's called Cool Daddy. I believe it's on YouTube. It's
okay.
And that was one of my first pieces that I experimented. I used a 2D character style with actual photorealistic backgrounds. And
okay.
And back then, like now you see stuff like that. Like there's a kids cartoon out now that the kids do that stuff. Now they have the real photo background and then they have the cut. But back then, no one was doing that, so that was new. So just by pushing and experimenting with stuff, just testing different formulas, seeing what looks good, what don't look good. Most of it didn't work, but the stuff that did work really looked good, and it stuck with me.
And so when you look at your older stuff and you kind of compare it to the newer stuff, obviously there's a certain amount of experience that comes into play and things like that. I'm putting a link up to your YouTube channel in the chat room for people who want to check you out.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you.
Oh, no problem. And then, what kinds of things? I mean, you jumped out quick. Yes, a lot of other people were going through school, and you just decided to make it on your own. Obviously, you had the chops, you had the talent. Otherwise, we wouldn't be speaking because we wouldn't know about you. So what do you think? What do you think provided the best impetus for you arriving where you got completely on your own like that?
Well,
was it just sheer determination, or obviously, I would guess you were still going through a learning process.
Right. Right. Well, it was two things that inspired me. One was just like you said, sheer determination. I always admired those guys. Like my big thing was the flyer. Like I always saw the great Marvel guys and the different guys with their faces on the flyer, and it showed where they would be appearing and they were doing. And I always envied that stuff. Like, man, if I could just get on one of those, man, I've made it. So that's why I press. People don't know. Let me just say one thing, first of all. It's a privilege and honor, man, to even be on this show. People don't realize how important a show like yours is, first of all. There's not many people that's given people like me and us platforms to launch our talent, being that we're not majors and we're not these big mega stars yet. Or
even mainstream. I mean, when you think in terms of mainstream, you've got these big people who blow up, but then everything else kind of drops off to the side, left and right, while everything else, the mainstream goes up the middle. So, and look how much creativity you see that's not mainstream. So somebody's got to do this. Somebody has to bring these people to the fore, or at least let our own community know. So I mean, please don't thank us. We thank you for being here.
Man, vice versa, man. I feel the same way, man. It's a privilege and an honor.
Well, okay. So all of that aside, give people a little idea about the process of gaining, the acceptance that you got, picking up more work, and even some of the how you managed to kind of put yourself out there and get a little higher visibility. Right.
Well, the main thing you don't want to be is you never want to be the guy who does nothing but he does the practice. All he does is practice, warm up, practice, but he never actually plays. Mm-hmm, and to me, that's the best way to get out there. There was a Japanese saying, the way of the samurai is to go head in, head on, never by the side. So if it's something that you want to accomplish, just go for it, sink or swim. That's better than wondering and thinking, well, what if, and how about, just go for it. That's the best way.
Well, and also, I mean, you obviously did something pretty slick. You mentioned how little you charged at the beginning. That's also a way. No, that's also a way to get an entree into work, because a lot of people go, man, I am worth $1 million, and I'm not going to take no small jobs, and I ain't going to do this and I ain't going to do that because I got mad skills. And the fact of the matter is, as you said, if nobody knows who the hell you are, it doesn't matter what kind of skills you have. Right.
Now, see, what most artists, and it's not just graphic artists or video games or animation. This goes across the board. See, just like me, we all start as artists, but one thing we forget to study as well, the business side. Remember, it's a business first. It's a business of selling art. It's a business of promoting art. So it took me working through the promotion of films to actually learn, well, there's a whole other side to this business. It's not just the art. So you have to learn smart marketing, smart promotions, and you have to learn what's not working, what is working, what's current, what's not current. Like for instance, I go to a lot of shows. I'm always the guy. I'm never one to be behind the booth playing superstar. I get out there, I mingle, I talk to the people. What do you like? What don't you like? What are you buying? What aren't you buying? Why not? What would you like to see? So you have to get out there and be amongst your craft. So learn both sides, not just, well, I'm a great artist or I sing great, I rap great. Yeah, but like you said, but if no one knows about you, no one's heard of you, you have no strategy, what are you going to do but sit on your product?
Yeah. Now, I mean, obviously you do good work, and for those people who are checking it out, oh, you know what? Give me your website so I can type it in here. Do you have a website, by the way?
No, I use my Facebook page. It's Robert Mathis.
Okay.
Facebook.
All right, yeah. So everybody wants to check out Robert's work. Go ahead and check out his Facebook page.
There's links to everything. There's links to my graphic novels. There's links to my music. There's links to my video game trailer. There's links to everything on Facebook.
Oh, so you just want to be a quadruple threat out there and just kind of push everybody aside, huh?
Yes, sir. That's my That's my plan. I just launched my music CD. I just launched a brand new music CD, and man, when I tell you, it's hip hop music, not this new stuff. There's nothing you can twerk on. It's all hip hop.
Yeah, that twerking thing. I'll be honest with you. I don't have the ass for it, But
me neither.
All right. So let's go back early. Let's go back to your early years. What did you start off with? Were you did you do art? Were you, pen, paper, ink? I mean, how did you start out in your early years, and about how old were you when you kind of discovered this whole thing that you were going to be pushing?
Now, when you say early, how early are you talking about?
Dude, I'm 82 years old. You can't out-early me, okay? So you go ahead and you bring it. I mean, seriously,
okay.
I mean, we've had some artists on who started about the same time they started in school because their parents were very supportive and gave them the kind of encouragement that helped them out even at a very young age. I mean, how did it start out for you?
Well, my first notion that I had something with this art, that the art was special, I think it was in 1974. I was actually in first grade. I had just started I just started a new school, moved from Harlem and the Queens, and I had just started a new school, PS 50. So I didn't know anybody. I was always the shy type, quiet guy.
Right.
So you get to know me. Now, so I'm sitting there. I was always a fan of joining the ladies. So I'm sitting there joining the ladies, risque, and suddenly my paper, my artwork was snatched from me. I was sent to the principal's office, and I was shaking in fear, man. The principal looked like Rosie Greer. I was the smallest guy, so I'm shaking in fear. So he looks at me, I look at him, and I'm like, oh God, here's it. It's coming now. And he looks at me and says, so you're an artist? And I look at him and say, yeah. And it took off from there. And that was my spurt. That's my story.
So you got encouragement that early. I mean, did that translate into going back to class and doing art? Did you finally get official acceptance of the fact that this was your creative bent? Yes.
And from that moment, that's how I continued to express myself through art. And I think it was around maybe in fourth grade, the same school. There's a famous artist out there I went to school with. His name is Carlos Carcamo. He does a lot of fantastic stuff in New York. You can Google this guy. It's Carlos with a K, and this guy is fantastic. But I used to sit by him in class, and I'd watch him just freehand draw, and he'd draw all the G-Force battleships and the planes and characters, and I was just amazed how he would do it with such ease, and it would just look great. And I always envy, like, man, if I could, that was the coolest thing. If I can do that, I would be so cool. So that was part two of my momentum drive.
Okay. And you, I'm sorry, you were how old?
This was fourth grade, so I had to be maybe like 11, maybe something like that.
Yeah,
10, 11?
9, 10, or 11, somewhere in there. Well, you were 11 if you got left back a couple times.
Well, no, that was.
I shouldn't laugh. High school was the best 6 years of my life, man. So, but I mean that's pretty cool. And so, what kind of encouragement were you getting? Were you getting encouragement at home as well?
Yes. Now, my mother. I grew up in a single home.
Okay.
Me, my mom, my sister, and my little brother. But my mom, for one, she was always strong on the arts, on like encouraging me to go forth with my arts, whether it was drawing, coloring shirts, or whatever it was. She always encouraged me, man, to pursue it. There were times that I was pressed and I wanted to go get jobs and stuff, and she would always say, "Well, why don't you just draw something and sell it?" And me, I'd be like, nah, who wants to do that? That's no money. Wow, right?
Mhm. And so, all right, so you're doing that at the age, in fourth grade. Let's say you're 10 years old or whatever, and then, like, when did you start turning outward and getting your art out there, maybe passing it to other people, or even to the point of selling it? Were you doing that maybe before high school, or how did your artistic bent follow you until you got to the point where you were your art turned external? You know what I'm saying?
Right. I know exactly what you're saying. That came around the era. That kind of coincides with me being a hip hop artist. Like around that time, hip hop was really big in the streets of New York, and one of the sides of hip hop would be graph writing. Back then, they called it graffiti. So me and everyone in that culture during that little era, we were real heavy into that. So like graffiti was this outlet that you said getting your stuff out there. Well, we got our stuff out there.
Yes, and I'm sure the local authorities were real happy about that, weren't they?
No, allegedly got our stuff out.
Well, come on, man. I mean, let's be honest. The statute of limitations has passed, so you don't have to worry about that. And plus, even though, I mean, okay, so you're tagging places, you're again, it's still moving your art forward, and it's moving it forward in a public venue. Other people are seeing it. You're probably getting critiqued on it. I'm sure people were calling you out when you did something that was like, sketch or, half thought out or not very good. So again, what you did was you jumped right in with your art and you jumped in with your peers, allegedly.
Right.
Allegedly, yes. Okay, so that's like the teen years. Let's splash forward to maybe the first time you started to do the commercial aspect of it. And you know what? You brought up another good point very, very early, which is great. People who are content creators, people who are artists, people who are musicians, the fact of the matter is, I would guess that about 75% of what you have to do is in the service of doing the business of business. Because unless you're writing a diary, unless you're, creating a sketchbook for you to just, have on your dresser, or you're, you're singing in the shower or whatever you're doing, the fact of the matter is you want to get your work out there and you want to be commercially successful. And I think the hardest part for a lot of creative people is to get to the point where they can do the business of doing business. How did you get to that point where you said, okay, I'm an artist, I'm a musician, I like to do a lot of creative things. How do you turn that outward commercially? What was your process?
Well, that all took place in Queens also. Like a lot of people that's local to Queens, there's a famous group of street artists. Well, not street artists, but they do a lot of shirts and clothes. They were called Shirt Kings. And they had this place that was set up in like this little flea market. It's called the Coliseum. Used to be a department store a long time ago, but they turned it into this kind of big world's famous flea market. It's called the Coliseum. It's in Jamaica, Queens. And anyway, though, these guys, they had a setup, man. They would do like the sweatshirts for all the rappers like Bismarck, Big Daddy Kane, Shan, and they would do these shirts, man. You can Google this stuff. This is real hip hop stuff. And one of the guys on my block was real good friends with one of the guys named Fade. And he brought him around the block one day to look at some of my work. I did a piece for him. A piece is what we call, like if you do like your name or something, like it's a full-page color spread, so they call it pieces. So I did a piece for him, and he showed it to Fade. And Fade was like, well, let me meet the guy, because he thought it was some big artist that he never heard of, not knowing that it's just little old me. So when he came around and saw that it was me, I think I had to still be real young then. So when he saw that it was me, he was like really impressed that someone at a young age was doing stuff like that. So he began to come around, and he would give me tips and stuff like that. And then I would go around to their shop, and I would see some of the stuff and see how they were selling the shirts and how they were commercially putting it out and marketing it, and they had stuff overseas and stuff like that. And then I began to learn, so it's not just about writing your name on stuff allegedly and stuff like that. It's about, you can actually make money doing this.
Right. And so how did that translate? I mean, did you start thinking in terms of monetizing your art right then and there, or did you ease into it? I mean, how old were you when you, let's say, got your first sale for your creativity, for your art?
Right.
How old were you?
Well, that all ties into the same story, because right after he told me that, I went home and got a bunch of shirts, and I started doing shirts. So it was 20 minutes later?
But what it sounds like, here's the thing. What you did was, I think the closest thing is the Bohemian movement, way, at the turn of the previous century, where people were fearless about their art. If they thought that they had something to offer, they would go out and do it. And it sounds very, very much like you had the same attitude. I see it. I see the potential in it. There's some monetizing I can do about it. Then there's no reason in the world why I can't go buy T-shirts and do my own thing. And that sounds like your process. Is that correct?
Yes, that's 100% correct.
And so, all right, so that's in your teen years. How did you fare financially? And the other part I think other people would like to know is, how did you, I mean, obviously you were fearless, you're out on the street, you're doing what you want to do. What were some of your deliberate steps in making sure people knew it was you and getting your art in front of people, other than putting it up on the Roosevelt Hotel?
Allegedly,
yes.
Well, the one thing, like you mentioned, well, with me, like with the whole graph culture, it was very competitive. So,
yes.
so like you said, there's a terminology. It's called toy. So, like, when you're deemed to be toy, that's like, your stuff's not really worthy. So no one wanted to be toy. That was the most uncoolest thing you could be back then. So,
right.
So before you even dared to go out there and allegedly throw up some artwork, you wanted to make sure that whatever you threw up had to be top notch. It couldn't be secondhand. So that's one thing that kind of rolled over. So it's like, well, one, what's going to make me stand out? My stuff's got to be top notch. Quality has to be number one. So like, it's not so much about getting out there and showing a quantity, but once you're out there and once people see you, what are they actually seeing? What's going to make them want to look at you once again, and what's going to make them want to keep looking at you? So that was my always thing: practice. Don't just be so ready to run out and just put anything out just to have something out. See, that's one thing I had to learn: be humble with your art.
And not do the same damn thing over and over and over again because you're a one-trick pony.
Right. Originality counts for a lot.
And the other part about, the whole graffiti culture is everybody's style is, I would say, it's easy for me, like if I get on the L or even get on the train in New York, and you go through these neighborhoods, you can see a person's style. You can, you would know personally who did what, because you could go, oh yeah, that's JT style. Oh, that was so and so. That was so and so. So the other part, the B part of being good, is the fact that you can't hide. You can't hide your talent. You can't hide your lack, because people know your style. So that was truly a trial by fire, as far as I'm concerned. And when you started getting the kind of notoriety, did that translate into, did people come to you and say, hey, I need a shirt made, I need this done, can I commission you to do something? Were those the kinds of things that kind of led into, the business generating or the income generating part of your art?
Yes, definitely. I started off doing a lot of stuff like that. I started off doing a lot of sketch work. A lot of people don't know that I do poetry as well. I used to do poetry. So I started out doing, and that's where the majority of my commissions came from. And what I would do is I would put them together. I'd do the portrait, like maybe a nice pencil sketch of someone's wife, and then I'd put a graffiti piece of her name on the bottom. And then I put it in a nice frame. So stuff like basic art, those were my early commissions.
And it sounds like you were still doing, one of the things that a lot of people don't do is they don't learn the fundamentals. Well, look how many musicians are out there, and, instead of being really rap, they just left the C off of that word, and they turn out crap, but they think just because they're doing it, and they're doing it well. But you had your drawing fundamentals down. You were able to do portrait work, and you got commissions for that?
Yes. Now, there were small commissions. Now, when they say starving artists, trust me, that's what I was. I'm talking about bologna sandwiches and grapefruit juice. That was my diet.
So you've seen my refrigerator, okay? Yeah, no, I got that. But the fact of the matter is, you kept at it. A lot of people get discouraged. What kept you going? What kept you going even when you had to get the non-all beef bologna? You had to get the pig ear and chicken butt bologna. Seriously, because a lot of people do get discouraged. Writers, artists, musicians, if they don't get something right away, you see a lot of them falling by the wayside. What kept you at it to get you where you are now?
Well, when I was younger, my grandparents, they come from South Carolina, from the Charleston side. There's a town, Mounts Corner. Shout out to the whole Mounts Corner. Back then, they worked very hard. Back then, jobs didn't pay a lot, and people worked like 10, 12, 13 hours. In fact, they still do. They work very hard. So I knew at a young age that wasn't for me. So my greatest inspiration was not to be the old guy on the truck.
Right, and you know what? It ages you fast. It gives you a cynical outlook on life. And I would imagine when you have to bust your hump that hard, that's also a very, very trying environment in trying, for people who are trying to remain creative. It's hard for you to be creative when you're sitting there going, man, I can't lift my arms above my head, or when you're just too burned out. So the fact of the matter is, it sounds to me like you decided this is the path that I'm on, this is the path that I want to go on, and you managed to stick with it. About how long were your lean years before people started cluing into the quality of your work and appreciating what you brought to the table?
Well, I said that came about I'd say anywhere between about 1997, 1998. That's when I crossed over mediums. I started doing more of the film editing, the film work, and the videography. Now, from that, once again, back then, that stuff was really expensive, and there were a lot of young groups out there. Like back then, people don't know. Well, a lot of people don't know. Artists such as Ludacris, he was once a radio personality here locally, like in Atlanta. So when a lot of these artists first started out, they didn't have big giant mega billion budgets. So like I saw an opportunity. Well, my wedding videos are pretty, going pretty good now. I'm starting to look good, but I don't want to be the wedding guy, So
right.
so like I took a venture. Most people know me, like people know me. I'm the guy who will approach someone well, and when I say approach, I'm not saying like stalking anyone or being unprofessional.
Right.
I don't encourage that. But professionally speaking, like if I like a book, I'll join the fan club. I'll write a letter. Well, I do animation. I do graphic novels. Would you like to see samples of what the work could look like? Some like it, some don't. I don't press myself on people.
It sounds to me like it's just, that's just classy self-promotion. That's not going out and pimping yourself to an extent that right. people say, oh man, look at him, not this person right. coming, and they all scatter. But
that's except for your station. Now, except for your station, I hung out in you guys' lobby. Please put me on. Please put me on.
Well, I had kind of a similar thing. I was, even though I'm biracial, I had a big ass afro back in the 70s, and I wanted to be on the radio, but I sounded like J.J. Walker, and I said, well, in Wisconsin, that's not going to fly. So I had to learn. I had to learn, to be able to speak in a way that made it attractive for me to get on the radio. And it sounds to me like, okay, so you're standing down in the lobby or, even at the ground floor and trying to sell your creativity, but it's a tough line to walk between, pushing it and pissing people off.
Right.
But if you're polite and not like the begging, when your car comes off the expressway and you say no thanks, I'm not going to give you anything. They go, well, have a blessed day. And I always want to tell them, don't tell me what kind of day to have. You don't know me, but it worked for you. Your approach obviously worked. And so here we are at the end of the 1990s. We're coming up to the new millennium and everything. What other kinds of things did you do in your approach to kind of get your name out there? Obviously, the reason why you're on this show is because you have arrived. But there was a point where people didn't know you. There was a point where, okay, you do a lot of things in the neighborhood. How did you increase your reach outside your immediate circle of friends?
Well, like I said, that goes back to the paper that I was telling you about, Creative Loafing. They had an ad, and there was a magazine that was starting out from Def Jam South. They had a magazine called Crunk Magazine. I think they only may have gotten out one issue of it. But they had a lot of celebrities of I think Scarface was the president of Def Jam South back then, and they had an ad that they were looking for staff, artists, writers, cameramen, all that. So then I had my little reel together, wedding footage. You know what I'm saying? That's what I sent to Def Jam South, wedding footage, first of all. But it was nice wedding footage. So, like, I sent it in, and they looked at it. I guess they saw something in it, and they gave me an appointment, man, to come in. And the guy, his name was Fluff, Piece to Fluff, Piece to J. They asked me, well, if we gave you a shot, could you be here a certain time? I said, man, I'll stay here till that time.
Okay.
So they gave me a shot. He said, well, show up Saturday, 3 o'clock, and bring your camera. I'll give you a try. So I'm like, wonderful. So he told me to meet him at Six Flags. I'm like, Six Flags? What am I going to do at Six Flags? So when I got there, they bring me around the back. They give me the press pass. And he tells you, well, when the guy comes out and I tell you to start rolling. So I'm like, well, that seems easy enough. But little did I know, he tells me to start. Guess who walks out? Ludacris walks out.
Damn.
And and I just started rolling. I rolled and rolled and rolled and rolled, and they liked what I did, and that led to more gigs. So they were like, "Hey, man, well, you want to do something else?" I was like, "Sure," and probably after the third gig, I actually began to get paid for it, and it seems from that point on, it just took off.
Well, I mean, that's the other thing that a lot of people starting out don't know how to do. They don't know how to ask to get paid. You know, they do. They go ahead, they do work, and they hope that someone is going to offer to pay them. And you know, people being the way they are, I think a lot of people would tend to take advantage of a situation if they didn't have to. So again, you had good business instincts that served you well in this respect. You know, you got to back up a little bit. You kind of jumped over how you got into the video production part of what you did. I mean, did you start out with a camera? Did you use someone else's equipment? I mean, you really didn't talk about how you got to that point. And now look at all these people that you got to meet. You know, just how did that all start out?
Well, that all stemmed out from the music. That all branched out from the music. Back then, we were using the old primitive stuff. We were using ADATs and 24-track machine boards and stuff like that. And right at that, and right up about that turn, 99, 98, 2000, they began to create digital platforms such as Cakewalk. And I believe that was one of the earliest ones, Cubase. These were some programs. Yeah. Right. These were programs that were created for home usage that replaced these old vintage tools and allowed us to do stuff that we couldn't do. So from learning how to do that through the music, I believe Cakewalk came out with a version that had a video track with it that you can do your music and your video. So that was my first yearn. Well, I'm going to make these little crazy videos to go with my music. That was my marketing scheme. Well, then I'll launch my hip-hop music through these little quirky videos. I'll just put little odd stuff, like little stuff. And what I was doing allegedly now would be called copyright infringement, allegedly. but to me, it just seemed like the coolest thing.
Well, it was cutting edge. I mean, at that time, you know, a lot of people didn't really care. I mean, let's talk reality.
Right.
MTV, when it opened up, they needed content, and not all of the content was from the record label or from the groups, things like that, and nobody cared because it was such an exciting blend of finally having a video to go with the music. And I mean, if we look at YouTube right now, I mean, if we were going to, you know, knock out every piece of copyright violations on YouTube, there would be no YouTube. I mean, we'd have very, very little content. But the fact of the matter is what makes YouTube and makes all of these kinds of creative endeavors move forward is the fact that somebody's doing something new. Somebody's doing something exciting that people haven't seen before. And you get a pass. You get a pass if you're good. And right. It sounds to me like, you know, you practiced up early and, you know, to send, I mean, stop and think about that. You send a wedding video to Ludacris's people, and they go, bring your camera down here and do some stuff with us. And the reason why they did that was because of production values. And that's another thing that people have to pay attention to in plying their craft, whether it's writing, whether it's video, whether it's anything. You know, do your fundamentals. Learn how to use your craft to the best of its ability. And, you know, like if you write a short story or a book, get the damn thing edited. I don't know how many people have asked me, because I'm a writer, oh, could you read my stuff? And in the first paragraph they have typos. And I go, well what are you trying to sell? You avoided that. I mean, look at this. They asked you to come there, and there's Ludacris. So
right.
So there's your quality there, and that sets you apart as well. So all of these cool things are happening because not only are you fearless, but you have an internal standard of quality that was obviously recognized by other people.
Right.
And so that's something that people have to think about. You have to think about, okay, I'm going to write a book. Somebody, I have people coming up and say, hey, can you help me write a book? And I say, what do you want to write about? Well, I want to write about my life. And I go, well, you're boring me to death right now. What makes you think somebody's going to read a book about that? So, you have to pick and choose and be very careful with your art. You did that. I mean, look where you are now. So let's talk about some of your current projects. Well, tell you what, let me just get this out of the way, and then we'll just keep going. You're listening to the Genesis Science Fiction Radio Show, a service of the BlackScienceFictionSociety.com website. This is the October 25th edition, 2013, and our special guest tonight, well, whatever time you listen to this, is Robert Mathis. He's the owner of Inner Eye Media. He's a multimedia threat who started out well, started out smart, and today is, would you say that you're kind of living large, or at least living your dream in terms of being able to do creatively what you want to do? I mean, are you kind of going the way the directions you want it to go?
Yes, definitely. I tell my friends all the time, don't pursue your dreams and don't chase your dreams. Live your dreams. Live your dreams.
So what are some of the projects you're working on right now? What's current for you, Robert?
Right now on the plate, I've got an up and coming piece with it's a legendary rap artist by the name of MC Shan, and we've got a piece. It's called Cold Chillin' the Saga. So that's what we got. That's new, and also I'm working on some video games. I've got one with a friend of mine. His name is X Factor. He's from Mounts Corner, and we've got a video game called Delusional Repeat, and it's sort of a puzzle science fiction game. So it's not one of those typical violent. Oh, he just grabs a gun and shoots everything. So it's actually a thinking game. I've got games on that level. I've got a maze game that's coming out. It's 2 versions. It's a kid-friendly version. It's a game based on the old memory game about it teaches you to remember different patterns and steps and stuff like that versus just going through like and shooting stuff up. And then I've got the grown-up version that you go through and just shoot stuff up. So, we got a lot of stuff coming out.
Now, are you enjoying the whole gaming part? I mean, gaming, there's 2 steps to gaming that I think are the most important. One is obviously you have to have a game with good playability. And then the other part is you have to have compelling action and graphics in order to, and even music now, to move the story along well. What kind of parts do you kind of concentrate on? Or are you really, kind of like a jack of all trades and you have your hands in all levels of production?
Well, that's what I started out trying to do, but strategically that's not a good move. So what I learned from the pros is that, you got to learn how to humble yourself and split things up. So what I kind of created is I split my stuff up into divisions. So I've got a guy that's here with me now, Marcus Lewis. He has a company, Spartacular Studios, and he handles most of my sound now. He does all the voiceover work, all the most of the beats and the production and the sounds in the video games, the and the ahs, those all come from him. So that lightens my load, that I'm able to really focus on what I really specialize in, without compromising my sound quality and my quality of my overall production.
And is it easy for you to work in a collaborative environment? Are you finding it easy to work with other artists to make the whole thing come together, or is it sometimes kind of hard for you to let go creatively because you may want to control the process, or you know what I'm saying?
Right. Well, it depends on who you're working with. See, I'm old school. I'm from the days where if you wanted to work together, you guys wouldn't just show up to a studio and they would throw you in the room together. They would bring you out to meet each other. You guys would vibe off each other, see whether you felt each other. Then if everything was cool, you would work together. If things didn't work out, then things didn't work out. So these people that I'm working with, these are people that I've known. These are people that I've established working relationships with prior to making comic books and prior to doing this.
And you mentioned comic books. I mean, was that kind of like the precursor to? I mean, you a lot of people will go art, comic books, animation, movies.
Right.
You got all of that jumbled up, man. I mean, where did the comic books fit in? Because we kind of glossed over that.
That's my foundation. That's where it all came from. That's where it all. Shout out to Antoine Robinson. I've known Antoine Robinson since second grade. This guy was the biggest comic. This guy lived, breathed, ate comic books. He had a comic book collection at 7 that would knock your Aunt Connie's socks off. So every day we would stand out like in the freezing cold waiting for school to start, and he would just bring this big book bag full of comic books. It had to be maybe, 50, 60 books just stuffed into a backpack, and we would just read comic books all day. So like he got me into that, and that's where it first started from. And then you got Super Friends and stuff like that on TV. So that all encouraged it.
And so that's like in school, right?
Right. Allegedly.
Well, I mean, we all have multiple interests in school. So now, did you start doing your own comic style artwork? And did you even get to the point where you were, you had your own characters, you had your own creative universe? I mean, how did that all work out for you?
Sure. Now with me, my thing was I never had just one thing. So like it's like some guys, well, I only read this, I only read that. I read everything. So my biggest thing, I liked a lot of the pre-early Marvel stuff, and I also read Mad Magazine. So like my characters were, well, it's Batman, but it's drawn like Al Jack. It's kind of gooky Batman, and he's a kooky Batman. And I write my own dialogue and stuff like that, and I try to duplicate what I saw.
Yeah, but did you develop your own? You had the kooky Batman, so did you kind of run with that? Did you do multiple stories on that character, or were you constantly revolving around new things that you discovered?
Well, yeah. And see, what my style was more like I would look at stuff and I would say, well, like with this particular artist, I like how he does his eyes. So I'm going to do my eyes like that. With this artist, I like how he does his hands. So by observing all these different styles, I kind of developed a style.
Mhm. Well, it sounds like you were self-teaching.
Yes.
You would find something that was compelling that you wanted to master, and then go and actually master whatever it was that you saw.
Right.
I mean that sounds to me like a self-educating process. And so you're still doing that. You're still learning. You're developing better skill sets, better drawing. Did you? I still am wondering, did you have a set of characters that you kind of brought to the forefront that represented, the kind of thinking, the kind of creativity you had? Or were you, and there's nothing wrong with this, were you just kind of like an artist who was learning his trade, learning his chops, and practicing all the time?
I'd say the latter, more like of the kind that more just practice. That was my big thing, practice. Like a lot of people say, opportunity only comes once. That's nonsense. The biggest problem is most people aren't prepared for that opportunity, and that's how you blow it. So I always studied on practice makes perfect. Quality, guaranteed quality will always get you further than almost.
Mm-hmm. Well, and again, it sounds like you were self-teaching. Your fundamentals were self-taught. You said, okay, here's a better hand. I can draw a better hand. Here's some better eyes. I can draw better eyes. I can learn how to do this to the extent that when I do get to the point, my craft is going to be honed. And obviously you had a good eye. You had, again, I don't mean to harp on it, but you had the kind of quality that other people recognized right away. How did that? I mean, did you get a good dose of confidence from that, or were you still kind of quietly in the background going, I can do better, I can improve? I mean, almost every artist believes that they are a work in progress. Is that pretty much where you are? You always think that you might be able to doing better?
Yes. I'm very critical of my self. Like I'm my worst critic. Like I'm always constantly watching. Like that could have been better. I can beat that guy. His stuff is all right. But it's almost like a self competition. So it's always striving to do better. Just keep pushing. What can I do? That's my whole thing. What can I do that's going to make me different? So when I'm standing amongst all the greats and the legend guys, and they have these huge backgrounds and they're popular, what's going to make them notice me? So I'm always looking to push it.
And that some of the better artists in all kinds of genres are like that. Are you familiar with the white comic Louis C.K.?
Yeah, Louis.
Yeah, you know what he learned from George Carlin? He learned not to do the same thing twice.
Right.
And he said that forces him to work harder because he can't fall back on the familiar. And it does sound like you have a little of that in you too, that you don't always fall back on the familiar. You are always pushing to meet something, to get to something newer, better, better than before. How does that help you with your relationship with other creatives who may not have your same ethic?
Well, it's all a learning experience. So when I work with other artists, I try to make it a learning experience for the both of us versus, I'm better than you, you're better than me. It's like, we all have something that we can contribute to. It's like no step is more important, the first or the last. They're both needed to accomplish the goal.
So for you, it's like a cross mentoring experience where not only do you want to achieve very, very good quality, but you want to push and support each other so that that's the yield. That the good quality is the yield from the effort.
Right. And that goes back to the graph days. Like for you to be back then they called them crews. There were certain crews, and there were crews that were more famous, crews that weren't more famous. So the thing was to get into the top-notch crews. So that was like a privilege, such as being on your show. So to get into a real crew and be able to write with someone that was really famous, that was an honor. So like that was your goal. That kind of pushed you. Well, no one wants to be in a crew that no one likes. No one wants to be in a toy crew. Mm-hmm. So I'm kind of the same thing with the art now. It kind of pushes you and gives you that motivation. Well, I want to work with different people. Like for instance, if I'm working with a real famous graph artist, I'm learning advanced techniques. I'm seeing this new stuff. I'm learning stuff that normally you wouldn't even get to see anytime soon. So then when I go back amongst my peers, I'm the man. I've got stuff that they haven't begun to see. So like I try to translate that now. So when I'm working with different artists, there's got to be something that I can learn from him, and there's got to be something that maybe I can show him.
And this is very unusual. Not very many creatives are so desirous of learning the new, and I think part of it has to do with the fact that as a creative, since your ego is so inextricably bound to your creativity, to what it is you do, I'll bring it back to an example in writing. People ask me to critique whatever they've written, and yet when I say, look, this is good, but here are some fundamentals I think you should be taking a look at, they don't want to listen to that for two reasons, or two conflicting reasons. The first reason is It's very hard for people to take criticism because they believe that criticism is a repudiation of their self.
Right.
And instead of looking at it like you do as, okay, I see what you're saying, I can do better, let me attack this from another direction, people either get, they get either discouraged or they don't want to hear it. They want a cheering section and not a critique. And so what you do is so refreshing to hear about, because what it means is that again, you talk about being old, you're only in your 40s, and here you are, definitely a work in progress. Everything you do seems to be in the service of attaining a higher level of excellence for your own art. And that's not always, you don't always see that. So, I mean, I see that as a very good thing, and I'm very impressed with that.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Oh, no. It's, I mean, it is rare. So now, when you're with your peers at, let's say you go to all these conventions, what kinds of things do you do? Do you want to go and find your other peers, see what everybody's doing, and then on the back side of that is how are you as a mentor? Do you reach out to kids to help them if they get excited about something? What's your interaction with the public, both with your peers and with your fans?
Well, with both, there's an event that we have annually here. I think it's an event held by Joseph Wheeler. It's Onyx Con.
Yes.
And he puts up this big art board that you could just let loose on. So usually, man, I'll find a bunch of the young guys and we'll just team up on the board. I'll do an outline maybe, and they'll fill it in. I'll let them fill it in however they want to fill it in, and I'll give them little different tips. They'll tell me some of the stuff that's current now, and we just go for it. So stuff like that. I'm never one to sit behind a booth and play superstar. That's not me. I'm out there with the people. It's the people that make us us. It's the people.
Come on, you don't have one pair of mirrored sunglasses?
Maybe one. I kind of limited to that one pair.
And what? You're telling me you don't wear them indoors?
Maybe one.
All right, because you keep talking like that, and you're not going to be in the Will Smith Children's Fan Club. But no, I mean, that's great. So not only do you deal with your peers, but you mentor and kind of help push along emerging talent. Do you do much community outreach, like with schools or anything like that now, or is that something you plan to do in the future, or do you really want to stay focused on purveying your art?
Yeah, there's a school that I was trying to target. My old school in Queens, PS 50. What's so ironic? One of my classmates, Dawn Lewis, shout out to Dawn Lewis. She actually ended up teaching at the school. So we've been trying to reach out, and we've been trying to bring an art program to the school. I've been talking to Carlos Carcamo about trying to put something together. So we're definitely about trying to get back and reach back. I'm talking simple stuff like give them maybe some colored chalk, let them color on the ground or something. Just some simple stuff, bubbles.
But it's not simple. I mean, it's simple in that it's not costly. But the thing is, it doesn't take a lot to open up someone's imagination. And when you look at how people in education have prioritized the fact that art, PE, and a lot of those other things are just not important, passing those standardized tests are important for that No Child Left Behind stuff. It is not, I don't want you to minimize what it is you're doing and what you bring to the table, because art opens up a kid's mind. I mean, look what it did for you. Look what it does for a lot of people. So I think that's great. I mean, you're based in Atlanta now. You would still be heading back up to your old stomping grounds to push, give some push to this program, right?
Right. But I'm also willing, man, to work down here too locally. It's like whoever will have me, and wherever they're willing, man, to participate, then I'm all for it, whether it's in Atlanta, New York, Chicago, wherever.
Yeah, if you come to Chicago, we'll go have lunch. I'm serious.
Okay,
well,
bring
no,
your shade.
Well, again, I mean, if I can get the ankle bracelet off, I'm going to be doing a lot of wonderful things, man. So, okay, all right, so let's I know it's a little early in the show to do this, but let's flash forward about 5 years, and then we'll go 10 years. Where do you think you're going to be going? Where do you think we're going to see you 5 years from now? What do you think your major push might be, or even a project that you think might be coming to fruition?
Definitely doing more ventures with my studio, which is SCIFI Media Studios here, like in Georgia. I definitely see a lot of it pretty much goes hand in hand with the technology. Like for what I see a lot of download distribution being the major platforms such as like Netflix and Redboxes and stuff like that. Nowadays they even have TVs that just bring it into your own home now. So I see that platform as being the wave of the future. So I see my studio really, really going in that direction.
Uh-huh. And are you going to be doing spec work? Are you going to be doing your own creative, or do you think you're going to have a mixture of both?
I'd say a mixture of both. We're going to put out our own stuff, but then we want to work with a lot of different people, too, like in smaller studios, and do a lot of collaborations.
And if people want, if people go to your Facebook page, they like what they see, things like that, and they, is that the best place maybe to get hold of you to talk to you about doing some collaborative things? Because obviously you've got some good chops, you've got mad skills. Well, I mean, let's be honest. Otherwise, you would not have the popularity you have. So, are you open to doing, collaborative things, even though it's not that far down the road yet?
Yes, sure. But like I mentioned earlier, but when you approach not just me, anyone, but have the whole picture done, though. So, and what I mean by have the whole picture done is there's a difference in a good idea versus a good plan. That difference is a good idea is some guy sitting around talking, hey, man, we should do this. A good plan is the documented means in which you're going to implement that plan. So when you come at me with this great space movie and you want space shuttles and the president to be in it, then make sure you have a means that you're going to be able to accommodate that.
Right. Well, here in Chicago, we had the architect Daniel Burnham, and his saying was, make no small plans. But, the operative word in there is plans. When someone comes to me and says, I've been thinking about doing a story, doing a book, and I go, what's it going to be about? Well, I want it to be loosely based on this, and this. And I go, well, do you have a story? Do you have an outline? Have you figured out a plot? More importantly, have you figured out an ending? Well, and then they go into that Rock thing back in the Rock TV show. Well, I ain't worked that part out yet.
Right.
And
right.
I mean that's exactly what you're saying. Have a plan. And do your due diligence. So many people go, well, I got millions of ideas, and unless somebody can look at your idea and say, okay, that makes sense. You have a beginning, a middle, and an end. You have a concept that's fully formed. It doesn't make any difference, And I'll be honest with you. When I started writing my first book, I didn't know a damn thing about writing a book. No, I didn't. And I knew I didn't know anything. So I'm a programmer from the early 70s. So I took out a technical drawing package and I did a flow chart of a plot. That flow chart is posted up on BlackScienceFictionSociety.com because I didn't know how else to do it. But if somebody came to me and said, well, you're writing a book. Yes, I am. Well, do you know what your story is going to be? Yes, I do. Do you have an ending for it? Yes, I do. Because if you don't do your due diligence, not only are you wasting your time, but if you try to corral somebody else into your plan to help you with your plan, you're doing them a disservice. And you're wasting their time.
Right.
So, what everything that you've talked about during this interview points up to the fact that you think about what you're going to do. You have a plan of attack. You have a plan in mind in how you're going to achieve a certain goal. And that is very rare. I interview a lot of people. I talk to a lot of people. And believe me, that is rare. And I think that you are an example for everybody else for a method of achieving success. Now, a lot of people don't want to put a lot of work in. A lot of people don't have a good work ethic. And like I was stupid when I started writing a book because I didn't know how to write dialogue. I didn't know how to do anything. But I had a plan, and I treated it like a part-time job, so I finished my plan. But I don't know a lot of people who do that. I have friends who are telling me, "Oh yeah, I've been writing a book. How long have you been writing it?" "Well, I've been working on it for about 8 years." And I go, "Okay. When do you do your writing?" They go, "Well, I don't always have the time, and I don't always feel like it, so I just kind of do it when I feel like doing it." And I go, "Well, you're never going to finish." And they go, "Why?" I said, "Because you're doing a full-time job doing something else. You got 2 kids. You got a wife. You got all of this stuff going on. When are you going to find time unless you make time?"
Right.
Let's talk about your process. When are you most creative? Give us kind of like your daily schedule in that you have in the service of your art.
The one word, procrastination.
Oh, you got one of those too?
It's like my deadline is when. Okay, I'll wait till it's literally almost impossible, and then I'll get cracking.
So you're one of those. You kind of just put it off and put it off and put it off. Why is it because you're by nature a procrastinator, or do you think you work better under pressure?
I definitely work better with the pressure added because it allows you to not waste time. It's like, well, each stroke has to count now. There's no time for practicing. There's no time for warm up. It's no more checkers. It's strictly chess. Each move must set up the next move, and each one must set up the next. So there's no room for any misguided thoughts. So like it kind of forces you to be sharp.
And focuses your energy. All right. So let's say you've got let's say you have a commissioned piece of artwork. Maybe you're doing the artwork for someone else's superhero. What's your? Are you talking about the night before, a couple days? How long does it take you to kind of get into that groove and get it done?
Well, originally I'm already in the groove. Once I accept your project, I'm already in the groove. It's like a technique. It's like, well, it's not just a physical part of, just get on the computer and just bang some stuff out. It's a thought process. Like I don't do storyboards.
Okay.
Like all my stuff is in my head. All my stuff is in the head. I keep no notes, none of that stuff. It's all in my head. So like, say I've got a month to do your piece. 2 weeks of that takes place in my head. I may be doing something else. I may be putting up promo here. I may be making a beat. But while I'm doing that, I'm laying your stuff out. So that way, when it's time to get on the computer, I don't need a thought process. It's already been done. So it's just do it physically now. And that's been my method for the last 14 years.
Well, I will admit that method does work because I'm the same way. I'm writing a book subconsciously right now, and when it comes time for me to get in front of the computer at 10 p.m., because I write from about 10 till 1, 10 till 2 every single day. I treat it like a part-time job, which is why I can write a 500-page book in 5 months or 6 months. But there is a lot of strength in the and a lot of creativity in people's subconscious. I think that the difficulty comes in whether or not you can easily tap into that. And it sounds like it works fine for you. It's kind of easy for you to switch the gears, to get in motion and things like that because you're constantly thinking about it. And then come the time, then you pull the trigger on what it is you already thought about. what's the hardest part? And obviously the procrastination is not really a hard part, but what's the hardest part about your creative process?
Well, the hardest part is like with me, my thing is like I've always impressed by I've been impressed by artists that have the ability to just draw. They don't need to look at anything, don't need any stencils. They can just draw. So that always impressed me. My thing is I'm kind of half and half on that. I have to draw it in my head first, and then I copy what I see in my head. So it's my stuff, but it's secondhand process. You understand?
And do you? That's another good question. In as your toolkit, are you a freehand drawer? Do you do it digitally? What kind of tools do you use to do your art?
Oh man, this is all hip hop. It's all hip hop. So that means you use everything. You use markers. You use computers. You use crayons. You use a paintbrush. It's like whatever makes it dope. That's what you use. Whether it's like I get that question a lot. Well, hey man, what program do you use? You using Dash or you using iClones? Using this? I say, man, I use every and anything I can get my hands on.
That's pretty impressive. Although, allegedly, a lot of your art was freehand.
Right.
And I guess if you develop that eye, and you've got that large form factor like somebody's garage, if you've got that eye where you can kind of visualize the finished product, visualize the picture, and get it out there, I would imagine that tools are secondary. And is it true that you pick your tools for the project, whatever seems to work the project best? Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Well, that's what I've heard. Right. But and also, but you have to keep in mind, back then you didn't have 3 hours, 3 days on your off days when you felt like it. You're talking about sometimes seconds. So if you ride around like in certain spots, you'll see pieces that you'll think, well, wow, how did he do that? How did he get up there? But, right, that's a good thought. How did he get up there? When did he do that? This is a whole mass wall to wall. So you're talking about things that are done in 15 seconds, 30 seconds to less than minutes. So all that builds in the thought process. Pre-think, pre-plan. Well, what type of texture will the wall have? Is it wood, metal? Well, what does this paint slide off? Does this paint absorb? So there's all kind of factors that are a factor in. But it all leads back to that pre-thought, that pre-plan first, and then do it.
And then it's the execution of the actual work.
Right.
Man, I'm telling you, you got an impressive process there. Tell us a little bit about some of the things that you have done in the past that you're really proud of. I mean, what are some of the things where you look back and you say, man, that was me doing, just doing something crazy and out there, but yet look how it turned out. And what kind of medium,
The most thing I would say is there was a piece that I did for the Atlanta Film Festival Silver Anniversary, and I had just gotten a new camera. Didn't know anything about film work whatsoever. I had a camera and I had a computer, so didn't have any type of lighting, any type of experience. But like you said, I knew that I'd be a crappy filmmaker. I see all the first guys starting out, and all this stuff looked the same. So I kind of knew, well, it's going to look crappy. So I used that to my advantage. So I said, well, I'll shoot it in black and white. It's a piece called Domestic Violence. It's on my YouTube page, and I'll use that to my advantage. I found this couple. They were actual couple, and they did the piece for me. I told them apart. Didn't have a script. It was total improvisation. Didn't have a script. So I just told them the scene, and we shot maybe 2 or 3 takes of it. They nailed it. I put it together. I sent it into the Atlanta Film Festival submissions department, and I actually forgot about it. I said, well, they're not going to pick me. They got professional film students, professional film companies. But hey, I gave it my all. I had to try. And maybe about 3 months later, I got a call from, I believe her name was Gertrude, and she told me that my film had been accepted for screenings. And they gave me a write-up in the brochure and everything. And it just blew me away that people actually dug my stuff to the point that I could go to an actual theater here and see my work on the big screen. It was totally amazing.
And with a brand new camera and not knowing, how best to utilize, all of the controls and everything, you still did quite well.
Right, because I intended it to look kind of shaky so that it would show that, well, it's shot from an amateur's point of view. So I used my weak point as
and
my
turned it to your
point.
strength. Yeah,
right,
turned it to your strength.
Right.
Oh, the jujitsu of filmmaking. Oh man, so I mean that's all pretty good. I mean actually it's more than pretty good. It's great. So today you're working on the studio is growing. You're kind of growing your capabilities, correct?
Right, definitely.
And you're looking at doing again just a wealth of multimedia in the future, both spec work and your own work. What kinds of things can we see coming out of there? I know I asked you, some of your projects, but what kinds of capabilities are you working on developing in your studio? Where do you think you've got your next kind of set of learning experiences and the tools that you're going to be trying to acquire the expertise to be using well?
Well, that would go back to the Urban Style Comics team.
Okay.
Andre Batts, great guy. He allows me
We've
to
spoken,
have,
yeah.
Yeah, he was on your show. I definitely caught that show.
Okay.
And he gives me a lot of creative freedom over there at Urban Style Comics. It started back when we were doing motion comics, actually. And he first gave me a couple of storyboards to try out, so I did a little simple stuff from him. He liked it, so he gave me some stuff to do. We did War of the Gods. They got quite a few hits on YouTube. It did fairly well for something for what it was. From that, we progressed. We did Jihad AD with a few of his staff artists. Abdul Rashid does a lot of work with different mediums and stuff. And then we crossed over into the full animation. We just did a movie, Dreadlocks. He premiered that at his motorcade venue last month. That did fairly well also. But we have a new film slated. It's a total 3D. It's a whole different style, which relates to what you asked me. We're trying a whole different look. Mostly when you see 3D animation, it's that same Pixar stuff. Not down in Pixar. It's a great company that they do great stuff. Props to Pixar and Disney. But we want to push it a little bit. We're going for this new look that it's not so polished, but then it's not so rough. It's it's hard to explain. Remember back in the days, you're my age, so you can remember those. Remember the cards back in the days that you would go with your grandma to the pharmacy, and they would have these cards. They were like the church sayings on the cards, but they were like these hologram cards.
Yes, yeah, I remember those. I thought you were going to go back further, back to when we would go out and do shopping at the dinosaur store. But yeah, no, I do remember those. Yeah, so you're thinking of kind of resurrecting that look.
Yes.
For some animation. Yes.
And you always hear 3D. This will require 5D.
How so?
But most aspects, like when they say 3D, it's not true 3D. it's 3D-ish. So what we're doing is it's sort of like the video game writing. It's like, well, you can take one level. That level can be just one plain flat level, one flat thing. But then again, I can stack 3 levels up, 3 levels down on that level, thus creating a multi-layer platform. But it still registers as one level. You understand?
Yeah, I do. Yes.
So with that same aspect, so not from just a 3D aspect, but taking 3D and layering that in 3D 2 more times, thus creating a fifth dimensional view, which actually is what gives you that hologram effect. That it's not the hologram like the old cheap Cracker Jack toys, but it's more. But
you're looking. Yeah, you're looking at the actual appearance, the actual aspect of depth.
Yes, without wearing glasses.
Man, and how soon are you going to be bringing that out? I mean, how soon can we expect to maybe see some samples so that we can kind of check out the technique and the execution?
Well, right now I'm washing Mr. Bat's cars. I'm walking his dog. I've been picking up his script from school. I have my script. I'm like, Mr. Bass, this is it. He's a great guy. Man. He's working with me on it, man. He's got some great projects coming out, too, man. He's got a book coming out, Black Watch. It's going to be something awesome, man. He's got someone to work on his page, too. It's fabulous, man. You got to check it out.
Yeah, and as with everybody else, as you come up with new projects and things come to the forefront, obviously we want to invite people back so that we could check out the latest and greatest that they're doing and being able to bring that to the forefront. You mentioned that you do a number of conventions and things like that. I would like to remind you that when you are going to have an appearance, if you could stop by here and drop it on the events calendar. So let's say somebody, if I can get this bracelet off and I want to go to Atlanta to check some things out, if you're going to appear someplace, if it's on the events calendar, I will check out the events calendar to see what other things I can do while I'm in the neighborhood. Excuse me. So if you're going to be, if you have an opening, if you have a screening, if you have anything like that, I would like to remind you to, please drop in and put something up so that people can check you out. Because one of the things that we talked about earlier is we don't get anywhere without networking. We don't, and the other thing is we don't get anywhere alone either. A lot of people don't realize that. A lot of people think, I can do anything. It's all on me. But the fact of the matter is, it doesn't hurt if other people come and support you. So, just keep that in mind when you're going to have an appearance. And, like if you're heading back to New York to do a con there or something like that, people in New York will check out the calendar and go, oh, look, Robert's going to be in town. So, just keep that in mind. I told Andre the same thing because he's got more than just the convention that he's interested in.
Right. He does a whole lot.
If you're going to have a screening of something new, let us know, or if you drop something on YouTube as well. It all counts, man. It all counts. All right, so if you in a perfect world, do you see yourself kind of not presiding over in a kingly way, but being one of the head creatives of really turning out, Inner Eye Media as a studio and being able to do all of this multimedia? You've got games, you got comics, you got film. Do you want to see this as a media hub for Black creatives?
Yes, most definitely. And let me say, I use more colors than just black. So it's not just black. It's reds and white.
No. Yeah, I know. But I mean, apparently, from your picture, you look black to me. So I was just.
Allegedly.
But allegedly, yeah. When at least your picture's not up at the post office. That's all I got to say about that. But what you're doing is you're putting together a creative studio, and it also sounds like you're mentoring the young. So it sounds like you've got kind of a good wraparound as far as not only being able to create, but also being able to kind of, let's use the word create your own customers. Because people who are interested in what you're doing are going to be and want to do things on their own. They're naturally going to be drawn to the kinds of creative endeavors that you're pushing for in the beginning. Do you see maybe an educational component, not just in New York, but doing something out of the studio to kind of nurture, students, young people who are not getting that kind of nurturing and are not getting that kind of support in their schools anymore?
Most definitely. And like I stated last time, I'd definitely be more than happy to work with any school system or anyone that wants to create a program. Just simple courses, maybe just introduction to videos or video game programming, simple animation, stuff like that. I'd be more than willing to join in and help out.
There's a model that we're thinking of pursuing here. I have a friend who ran an art gallery, and one of the things that we want to do is we want to get a bus and kind of take some of the seats out and make it a mobile kind of art, not necessarily a studio, but a mobile art. The library, the library book mobile. We want to make an art mobile and bring it to students or have it in certain places on the weekends where kids know they can come and exercise their art. And it's an inexpensive way of doing it, you bring it to the kids rather than making the kids come to you, because not often, there are times when they can't travel. So, that's an idea that we've been thinking about. And schools are into it because they know they don't have the money. They don't have the money for a good program, but if you can bring them a program and it doesn't cost a lot, and then the other thing is you bring actual artists. That the mentoring aspect where you would go, you've got a following, you have a you have credentials, and there you are. You're the guy in the bus. So that's something that I've been thinking about, and we're thinking about here in the Chicago area. If they can't come to the art, bring the art to them.
Right. Definitely, man. That's a great idea.
All right, so we got about 15 more minutes here. What are some of the things that we may have glossed over, or what are some of the things that are most interesting to you in pushing forward? I know you've got projects, but in your dream world, what are you looking at, man?
My dream world would be for to see us, and what I mean our side as like artists in the United States, to actually be competitive in the world of art, not just in the United States, amongst ourselves. Like when I look at a lot of the foreign works, like such as the stuff in countries like Japan and stuff, they're so advanced. It's like we're 5 years behind at our best sometimes. So to see artwork really reach that level that we're competitive and we're putting out that quality that just wows us, and that's the main thing. The whole thing with the entertainment is it has to have the magic. It has to wow the fan. It has to make you want to buy that ticket. It has to make you want to come out and pick up that book or buy that video game. Not just the same repetitive artwork over and over again, rehashing it, but they want to see that new, just keep pushing that edge. So that's my dream, to see us on an equal plateau, that we're competing at that level, that we're doing the things that they're doing. We're doing stuff that's telekinetic video games. You know what I mean? So to see that happen, that would be really awesome.
That actually brings a question to mind. Do you have much of an international following for some of the things that you've done? You know, the things that are more visible yet, or are you mostly have, you know, the attention of the domestic audience?
My international following consists of two artists that I love. One is Wayne Hardwired Raleigh, shout out to him, and my man JTM, and they're both out of London.
Uh-huh.
So, shout out to those brothers.
Have you collaborated with them on any projects? Because we actually, I interviewed, I feel bad for not remembering their name, but we interviewed a couple of people here. One's in the U.S., one's in Canada. They've never met, and yet they are just doing, you know, some fantastic things. Have you worked with them, or are you guys just have an awareness of each other?
Well, with Wayne, it's more of awareness, and we send stuff back like music and stuff like that. And I'm just a fan of his artwork too. As far as JTM, man, he's on our staff at Urban Style Comics, and actually, a lot of people don't know that he actually started the 3D division of that. He was the first one to do the 3D dreadlocks and stuff like that. So I've kind of been biting off him. So when you see my stuff, a lot of the 3D work that I've done with Urban Style Comics was inspired by him. So it's not just me. So it's one of those, well, it's an in my mind collaboration.
Right. You've been copying off his paper.
Pretty much, yeah, pretty much.
But sure, I mean, you know, obviously, imitation is the sincerest form of flattery.
Yeah.
And when you do find somebody who has a really cool style, it's an homage to them. You know, it's like it's celebrating their style because it's important enough and it's cool enough that you say, man, this is worthy. Let me take a crack at it.
Right. Speaking of that, oh man, you hit it. There's a guy you had on your show a few weeks ago, Lloyd Cheatham Jr.
Right.
This guy has a style that is bananas. I've never seen anything. Man, his colors are so vibrant. Man, me and him going to hook up one day, and when we do, it's going to be something magical. I can promise you that. Shout out to Lloyd, man. He's a great artist. I'm a fan of his forever.
Now, talk about that for a little bit. How do you like this gathering at the BlackScienceFictionSociety.com website? I mean, tell us, you know, what is it important to you? What you see, you know, how you see it as an advantage or a disadvantage. I mean, what do you think about this gathering of creatives that Jarvis Sheffield, the creator of the site, has managed to put together?
Man, first of all, I love it. There's a graph film. I think it was either Wild Style or Style Wars, and there's a part up in the Bronx. There's this thing called the Bench. And it's where all the great writers, man, they will assemble every day to show each other their new graph styles, and they would look at the books, and they would talk about where they bombed at and got down at. And that's what your page and that's what your platform represents to me. It's that premier place to go that this is the it spot. This is where it's happening at. This is where the premier writers are. This is where you need to be. This is who's who. If they're relevant and they're doing something, they're here. So that's where you got to be. So it's very important to me.
Do you have other creatives you've worked with who are on the site that we can take a look at their stuff as well?
Most of my
or people who have influenced you. Sorry to interrupt. I'm sorry.
No, just mostly the stuff that you see on the page. Most of my stuff is with Urban Style Comics. So that's people like Donnell, people like Abdul, and these guys are no slouches. So it's an honor to be able to take their work and put motion to it. So there's a lot of pieces that's actually out that was primitive, but they're good, solid pieces because it's good art.
And so, I mean, have you seen people here that you're really going to want to maybe think? Well, obviously you mentioned one where you want to do some collaborative work with. This kind of network, this kind of social network, excuse me, obviously has value for you, correct?
Yes, definitely.
So and people should pay attention to that. And other than the people whose egos are so fragile, when you critique their work, they go and cry. Yeah, and you all know who you are. Go ahead, get mad if you want to, but you know it's true. I still think, I post up things that I've done, and I do it with a little bit of trepidation, because you never know if of course I want everybody to love everything I've done, and I think everybody would. But when someone tells me, you could have done this different, have done this better, at least I'm not so thin-skinned that I'm going to go and, jump in bed and cry all night.
Right.
I
that
think
motivates me. That motivates me. Like one of my rap friends, like the last CD I made, I kind of lounged back on it. And when I played it, my friend from Mouse Corner, Pee Wee Shine, he told me, he said, it sounds okay, but, man, you got to go hard, man. You got to go hard. It's there, but it's not there. So most guys, they'd be like, oh, man, he's jealous. He's hating on me. But me, so when I went out to make my new project, Rob Matt the Master, it's on YouTube and Facebook as well. I thought about that. So while I'm making my beats, I'm writing the rhymes, I'm hearing his voice. Oh, yo, man, you got to go hard. You got to go hard. My other friend, Rob Bryant, man, he's the same way. Yo, man, that beat is all right, but you got to step it up. So, like, I take all these things in stride, and that motivates me to be better. Once again, that goes back to it's got to be that top quality.
Yeah. And you know what? I think the better creatives, really work on upgrading, their style, learning their trade better, and I think those are the ones that are also that also tend to endure. So here you've got you've got all of these. I'm sorry, I was looking up your web page, your Facebook page. Are you under Robert Mathis? Because I'm going to post it up here.
Yeah.
You're not in Indianapolis.
No, not at all.
You're not a football player.
No, not.
You're not. You're not at DuSable High School here in my town.
No.
Well, we'll find you.
My face picture is buckwheat.
Oh, buckwheat.
Yeah. There's a picture of buckwheat on my that's my profile picture.
Okay.
Look on either Rob Mathis or Robert Mathis. Either or should pull up. In some Facebook.
Okay. Because I want people to be able to take a look at everything that you've done.
Right. You can even go to my YouTube page. Then it's Kel Cams. It's KELLCAMZ YouTube. So that has. Somebody already posted up your Facebook page. See, I can't do two things at one time, or at least not these two things. I can't do radio and looking up and all of that because I want to pay attention. Right.
We're in the closing few minutes. Is there anything in particular that you would like to tell about, or you would like to say, or even a good story that you've got? A good 5-minute story that you've got about exactly how you got where you got.
Well, yeah. I'm sure that's I believe really. It started a while ago when I was young. My mom used to go to the shows at the Apollo when we lived in Harlem. It was maybe like 3 blocks from our house. So
wow.
I remember her taking me to see Al Green live, and all the other groups we saw, like the Spinners, man, the OJs, Main Ingredient, they all came out. They all did the same thing. 1, 2, 1, 2, did their moves, whoop, 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 and they got off the stage. But Al Green, his set was totally different. Once his music came on, he had this little stage set up with props. He had a hut, and they showed him through the silhouette, and they had a little theatrical thing. They spent them around, the music increased, and it was just crazy, and the people lost their mind. And from right there, that was my first lesson in that difference. That's what sets you apart. And that goes back to what we've been saying the whole show about the quality. And always strive to be different. Don't be repetitive. Learn all you can learn. Study hard, man, and practice. And you'll definitely get out of this art form what you put into it.
Better words, can't be said about that. I mean, obviously it worked for you, and you are not, the thing that we talk about, people hiding from criticism. I don't see how you can expect to be a top-notch creative and not realize that other people may have something of value to say about your work.
Right.
So, it's just as important to listen outward as it is to turn your talent inward and get the best that you can out of yourself.
Right.
This has been, we're coming down to the last few minutes. This has been a great interview. I've had a really good time. And the cool part about that is when it happens like this, it makes me as another creative or even as a civilian want to learn more about what it is these creatives do and how they do it, because the process is fascinating. I mean, I don't think that we have a formula for creativity, and I don't think that we know what creativity, what the basis for it is, psychologically or whatever. But, excuse me, you had, we look at you, you had great encouragement when you were young. You had it at school, you had it at home. You had great peers that you managed to spend some time with, both in school and afterwards. And you put all of those things together, plus you have, a network like the BlackScienceFictionSociety.com website, and you put all that together, and,
right.
It can't help but make your creativity blossom and bloom. So, thank you for that. Thank you for having that. Thank you for being here. It's been, excuse me, it's been a great ride. You've got people in the chat room who are interested in what you're going to do. Please, always remember to post up your appearances and even, anything else that you've got. Like if you post up a new, a video on YouTube or something like that, let people know, blog about it, let people know at BSFS so that they can follow you and follow your talent and follow your creativity.
Okay, definitely, man.
We're coming up to the hard hour here, and it seems like a good place to go. I'm going to turn it back over to our skipper and have him close out things, and then we'll say goodnight. And then after we stop the recording, if you could hang out for a couple seconds, I got a couple things I'd like to say.
Okay, definitely.
All right, so skipper, what you got?
Oh man, I'm just sitting here and listening to everything that's being said, and I'm thankful for creative people to come on here each week and support what we're trying to do, because we're trying to support you in what you're doing. So I appreciate everyone that's coming on and sharing their knowledge and their experience on here. And I learned some things about Rob that I didn't know today. I thought I knew him, but I did. But that's a good thing, because we learned some really cool stuff tonight. And as always, William does a great job of pulling the information out and making everything easy and informative and also entertaining. But I just want to thank everybody, all the people that have come on the site and listened to the presentation here, all the people that have shared the information on Facebook and other sites or whatever. But everyone that has participated on here, I want to thank everybody. I want to continue. I want you to continue to try to support us, and like I said, we'll continue to support you.
Definitely, man, definitely.
I just had a wonderful time here tonight listening to the quadruple threat here.
I definitely appreciate it, man. I definitely appreciate it.
No, it was good having you, and then we will have you again in the future when new things come up. I want to thank you on behalf of everybody at the BlackScienceFictionSociety.com website. This has been the Genesis Science Fiction Radio Show, which airs live, at 9-ish o'clock on Eastern Time every Friday. And for those people who do miss a show, the podcast of the show appears on the TalkShoe page very, very shortly after. Be sure to tell your friends. It's great to listen to it live. Pick it up as a podcast if you miss it. But remember, it's 9 o'clock on Friday, or 9 Eastern Friday evenings. And then, as I always say, follow the clock for all the other time zones. On behalf of everybody here, I'd like to thank everybody for showing up and listening. Those of you in the chat room, thank you very much. One day I'll learn how to type and chat and talk a little bit better. And again, a very special thank you to Robert Mathis for gracing us with his presence and sharing his life and his experiences with us. Thank you very much, Robert.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
All right. On behalf of the Genesis Science Fiction Radio Show, have a great rest of your day, evening, whatever, and we'll see you again next week. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
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 Good night, everybody.